Hey guys, Tim Goins here again, and today I wanted to talk about harmonics on the guitar, specifically artificial harmonics, and I think it's one of the coolest things that the guitar can do, or that you can do with the guitar. You know, a lot of us are familiar with just regular old natural harmonics, and if you're not, let me explain them really quick. What happens is we've got a string, okay, and any place on that string, any spot on the string that divides the string into equal parts. So the 12th fret, for instance, that divides the string exactly in half. I know it doesn't look like that because the frets get smaller here, but there's the same distance from the 12th fret to the nut as there is from the 12th fret to the bridge. It's exactly the same. And so any place on the guitar that divides it into equal parts, there exists what's called a node, and if you just lightly touch your finger to that string without pressing down at all, and just pluck it, normally it sounds like that, right? But I can get the octave. Okay, works on all the strings. Right? Easy enough. There's another one at the 7th fret. Another one at the 5th fret, which is actually 2 octaves up. And then there's still more, and it actually gets to where there's a couple within each fret. And they get a little harder to hear, especially if you're on a clean sound, but maybe if we turn on a little bit of distortion, you can hear them. I can go. All right. So you hear Jeff Beck use those a lot. He uses those in a lot of his tunes. He is a master at natural harmonics on the guitar, and using between that and the whammy bar, he can hit any note known to mankind. It's crazy. But now, what I really wanted to talk about, though, because most of us are familiar with that, just from messing around on guitar, and they're very useful. But what I really wanted to talk about are artificial harmonics. And what an artificial harmonic is when you've got a note fretted. Let's say I'm going to just play the 7th fret on the B string. Doesn't matter what. All right. Well, now, obviously, since I've got this note fretted, I cannot use the harmonic on that string anymore because I've effectively shortened the string by putting my finger right here. But you can still play harmonics. They still exist, actually in the same places relative to your finger here, whatever fret that happens to be at. Still, and it's the same principle, any spot that divides the string into equal parts. Now, the easiest one to see, though, let's forget about the whole equal parts thing. Let's talk about frets. The easiest one to see is 12 frets up, and that's what most people end up playing. Some people are way better at this than I am, and they can do it at the quote-unquote 5th fret or 7th fret above a note that's already fretted. I'm not that good. But 12 frets, it's pretty easy to see because, the guitar fretboard repeats itself. So it's a little bit easier to visualize it. So what you do, so how are you going to play that? You can't just put a finger lightly on the string with your left hand. Well, we're going to have to use our right hand to do that. Now, the way that I do it, it's a little bit of a sleight of hand motion, but I switch the pick to my middle finger. Or you can use it, if you play with just your fingers, you can use your thumb. But I'm using a pick, so I switch it over to the middle finger. And now I'm going to use my index finger to do the job that my left hand was doing before. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to envision 12 frets up, so that's here. And I'm going to lightly touch the string with my index finger at that fret, the same way I was doing before on the open string, and pick behind it with that. And you get the harmonic like that. A good way to practice this is forget about your left hand for a minute and just do it on the open strings. Same way we did before. Okay, do stuff like that. don't have to practice it at the different frets, because all you're trying to do is figure out how to do it. One key that I kind of emphasize is that I like for the index finger to be straight. All right, some people do it curved, and I don't know. It doesn't seem as accurate to me if your index finger is curved. It gets a little bit cramped. So get it out there straight and pick behind it. So see, it's rigid, and then I'm picking behind it like that. Messed that one up, but whatever. All right. So now back to this. So I've got a note fretted. All right. So you can do this with anything. You know, say if you have a chord, say I'm going to play this E minor 7 chord. All right, a simple little E minor 7. So if you see the shape of that chord, basically what I'm going to do is trace the shape of that chord 12 frets up with this whole harmonic technique. So you can go like this and get that chord. So same notes, an octave up. So kind of a neat little effect there, right? You can play scales. Once you learn the technique, you can do just about anything with that. You know, you can play scales. Okay, pretty fun. And so there's all kinds of ways you can start to use this in your music, in your playing, and whether it be in your soloing or in your rhythm parts. You know, sometimes it's a cool way to end a song. One thing I should mention is that you will find if you start to do the harmonics don't really come out very well with the neck pickup of a guitar. Especially once you start getting even higher up on the fretboard, and we're going to get to that in a second here too. But the harmonics, well, you're the only thing that'll hear it really are the middle pickup and usually the bridge pickup. If I'm going to do harmonics, it's usually going to be on the bridge pickup, because it's going to hear the part of the string that's ringing behind where my index finger is. See what I mean? So if you get up into the fretboard, like if I'm going to do an artificial harmonic from the 12th fret, that actually exists. It's off the fretboard. It's over this pickup. If I do it on the neck pickup, you can't hear it. Same spot. Hear that? So it's right there. So only the bridge pickup or the middle pickup would hear it. Something behind this finger has to do it. So usually I stay off the neck pickup if I'm going to be doing anything with harmonics. So there's that. And another thing that helps them stick out is a little bit of distortion, to be honest with you. You don't have to have it, but it does make it easier in the beginning. So, you know, especially, like I said, as you get up high. So we'll talk about that now. A lot of these harmonics, and Eric Johnson is a master at this, and you guys all know I love that guy. So, but he is a master at it, at finding, at being able to find harmonics past the end of the fretboard. It's fairly simple down here because you can just envision 12 frets up and you see the frets and everything. But once you get over here, those harmonics are still there, but there's no frets to guide your way, right? So that just takes some practice, and it's kind of fun practice, but it can take a while to get used to it. And I'm still not the best at it, but it is fun. And so let's say so the 12th fret, and I should say this too. It's another kind of a nifty thing about a Stratocaster or Strat type guitars or anything that has 3 pickups. There's a few more reference points. You see what I mean? You can think, oh yeah, this one is at kind of the front edge of this pickup, or it's on the back edge or here, or it's a little bit behind this pickup. Whatever. You've got a few more points of reference. This is really hard on acoustic guitar because there's nothing. There's just a sound hole, and you're kind of left to your own intuition as to where those harmonics are. Anyway, so let's get into that. So yeah, you just still have to envision the fretboard, and you know, just the same way as the frets are getting smaller right here. You know, they get smaller as they go up. They get even smaller. The imaginary frets get even smaller as you go up too. So, like I said, takes a little bit of getting used to. Fortunately, you don't have to be totally exact to get it to ring out, but you got to be at least in the right zip code. So anyway, so like the 12th fret exists here. It's a little bit in front of the pole pieces. So not on the front of the pickup, but just right in front of the pole pieces of the neck pickup. So it's right there. All right, and so you can start to play stuff, you know. Excuse me. So yeah, you're having to think of two things at once. Sometimes, you know, you're gonna get a little bit tripped up, but it's fun to do. It's fun to do, and I don't see a lot of guys doing this anymore. It's sad. It's a cool thing that the guitar can do. So the next way I want to show you, and the best thing I can say as far as this goes, is just practice it. There's a song on Eric Johnson's album, on the Avia Musicum album. The last song on the record is called East West, and there's a passage at the end where, or not at the end, it's the guitar solo. It's kind of and which is towards the end of the song. It's a very short song, but the solo starts. But at the end of that, or he plays through that one time, and then he does it with harmonics. So you can hear this if you listen to East West. So not East West, just East West. You can hear him do this. So he does it an octave up using harmonics. So that's a pretty good example to kind of hear that in action. So another way to play these harmonics, and this is something I saw my friend Andy Timmons do this, and I started doing it. I thought it was just so cool. I'm sure other people do it too, but anyway, I found that, or by watching him, I found out that hey, you can actually make a harmonic ring out by basically smacking the string at the octave fret above where you're at. All right, so say if I got this A, I'm going to get a little bit more drive on here. It's going to help it stick out a little bit better. So anyway, we got that, the 7th fret on the D string, that A note. Well, I'm going to go 12 frets up from that, and I use my middle finger to do this. And you see what I did? So not in the fret. It's kind of like fret tapping in a way, but it's not. I'm not hitting the note and holding it down on the fret. I'm actually hitting on top of the fret itself. All right. And the cool thing about that is it kind of, especially on the lower strings, it gets kind of that octave fuzz kind of vibe, because you hear a little bit of the lower string and you hear a little bit of the top of the upper harmonic, and it kind of just has a neat little thing. So that's fun to do as well. And keep in mind too that everything that you're doing down here reflects up here. So like if I bend a string, maybe I'm going to hit this harmonic, but I'm going to bend the string too. The harmonic goes with it too. Pretty neat. All right. The last thing that I want to get at, and I know this is a bit of a long video, but bear with me. And this one is something I'm still working on, but it's so much fun. And it's something I don't see a whole lot of people do. Again, the first person I saw do it was Eric Johnson, but it actually started with Chet Atkins way back in the day. It's a technique called Harp Harmonics. And it's a combination of artificial harmonics and just the regular fretted notes. And it's in a specific pattern. I'm going to show you what that pattern is. The easiest way to practice it, let's just go, because this doesn't work for every chord shape, and well, I'm going to show you why here in a little bit. All right, but anyway, let's start with just right across the 5th fret, if you can bar that whole thing. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're actually going to start on the D string. So whatever chord shape you've got, you got to start 2 strings up from the bottom of the chord. Okay, so we're at the 5th fret. So what I'm going to actually do is pluck with my middle finger. So see how I've got my hand. Remember the whole technique with having the index finger and the pick behind it. You could do it with your thumb too. That's fine. But I use it with a pick. So the index finger is pointed and the pick is picking behind it. Well, also, and I have to tilt my hand to do this, but my ring finger is going to be doing the plucking of the natural notes, not the harmonic notes. So what I'm doing is I'm plucking the D string with my ring finger, followed by an artificial harmonic back on the E string. Let me go to this pickup. You'll hear it a little better. All right, you hear that? Okay, so that is the pattern. So I would just, if I were you, let me get a little compression on here too. That'll help it stick out a little bit better for you too. Sit there and practice that until you're comfortable with it. Then you go up a set of strings and up a set of strings, and when you start running out of strings, you can just finish it out with artificial harmonics at the end. Here's what it sounds like. Pretty neat. Makes it sound like a harp, in a way. Now, like I said, this doesn't work with every chord shape, and the reason for that is, here's a good example right here. Let's say we take an A bar chord. Well, if I do that same pattern, hear that? The first 2 notes are the same. It's not a bad sound, but there's repeated notes, and that's not the way that this technique really works. You can do it on that, there's no law against it, but you see what I mean? It sounds like a bunch of repeated notes at the same time, because it is. So you have to figure out what chord shapes work for this. And then another thing that I've recently been working on is the fact that you can and you can do this going backwards as well. With the idea being, let's go up here. You start with the harmonic first. You go up to the top. Start with the harmonic first, and then do the pick note. All right. So that's kind of cool. And then you can actually do some little things like, say I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to pull off like that. I'm going to go. So this is the chord here. All right, but adding that little pull-off note in there, kind of cool. So anyway, there's a lot of things you can do with that. And with the harp harmonics, all these techniques, it just takes a lot of practice, a lot of just sitting there and banging it out. But have some fun with it, because it's something I'd love to see a whole lot more guitar players do these days. It's kind of seems to be becoming a lost art, using harmonics in your stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to end a solo. Like Eric Johnson does it all the time. He'll play a line and then finish it out. Stuff like that. You hear him do that all the time. and it's pretty fun to do. And once you kind of start to figure out that you can do it, you can do it too. It's a pretty cool feeling. So anyway, mess around with it. Have a good night.